were pretty
But
good on time. We were pretty
in
good on
general, I
time.
must say it's a pretty tense crew to be a Borderland crew. Like uptight and like, oh, it needs to be right. It's like we could have just like.
Hello and welcome to a short intro video with information needed to be a clown police for Borderland. My name is Robert and I'm Borderland 22's clown police lead. And yeah, let's starting. Let's go.
Hi, and my name is Gustav. I was a part of starting the clown police about 10 years ago. We realized we needed some people to support the community when it comes to safety. And we didn't want it just to be safe, but actually to build this group of people who are going around the event to make sure people are having fun. It's not just a preventative force stopping bad from happening, but a promotional force that promotes good things to happen. And that is the clown police. And the clown police are just normal participants like you and I. We are just taking on this role of walking around and supporting people. That means our clown police doesn't actually have authority like normal police. We can't force people to do things. We can't demand stuff. We just support. We ask questions. We help connect people. And, you know, if we have to make decisions happen, then we have to use an advice process like everyone else at the event. So you are here to make people happy. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Anton, and I will be giving you the who's who of all the roles and the persons at the Borderland. So chiefly for the clowns is the comms clown. This is the person who has the overview of the shift and sort of keeps the whole symphony running, and also is in control of the radios. Together with the comms clown, we have the core clown. This is somebody who stewards the essence of the clown police and is there to support you. If you have any questions or how do I handle this or what do I do in this situation, then you can talk to the core clown. Apart from the clown police, we also have the threshold. This is the guarding force that guards the perimeter of the Borderland to make sure that nobody who isn't allowed in makes it in to the Borderland. Together with the threshold, we also have the sanctuary. The sanctuary takes care of us internally inside the Borderland. If we get cuts and bruises, and they're also somebody to talk to. Apart from the sanctuary, we have the helm. This is an executive in case of emergencies authority that we can turn to get help and guidance in case we need to make some executive decisions or evacuations and such, but they're usually not called upon. And finally, we have the conflict crew and the consent crew. The first works with supporting during conflicts, and the consent crew is focused on consent culture. Let's see if there's anything else. Well, there is, of course, toilets and power, and they're sort of self-explanatory and can be found both in the, both in the manual, but you can also call them on the radio. Now, I will now give you a little overview of the emergency protocols. The emergency protocols are a help for you and for us during emergencies. They're a checklist to make sure that we haven't forgotten anything, because we all know that in emergencies, it can be quite chaotic. You can easily miss something that you needed to do. You can forget a phone number. you can sort of get nervous. So the emergency protocols are there to help you and guide us during an emergency situation, but they're not a replacement for common sense and should be used in conjunction with your common sense. In the Clown Police manual, there are action cards for a lot of different things like intruders, missing child, flying drones and lasers, and also fire. And I will give you a brief example of how the fire card looks. Now, bear in mind, these cards are made as simple as possible. You can sort of evaluate them and use them as you see fit. They go together with all of the other things that I mentioned previously. So Sanctuary has these cards, Helm has these cards, Threshold also has these cards, and they are synced so that all of these institutions, if I might say so, they go together quite nicely. So in case of a fire, you should alert the nearest people, shout fire, fire, evacuate, and then you directly call the emergency services, say where the fire is, and all of this is of course provided in the action cards. You say where the fire is, how many people are there, and give the emergency services however much information they need. And then of course you alert the comms so that Borderland can also help out with the fire. After alerting and alarming emergency services, you rescue people, extinguish the fire, and make sure that everybody is away from it as much as possible. And all of this is simply described in the cards. These are what we call the emergency procedures. Yeah, I think that's all from me. Who's next on the agenda?
Okay. Hey, I'm Sabina, and I am the content lead of Borderland 2022. And I'll go through what consent is, just to have an idea, and also how we can meet it. And of course, the steps of how do we encounter it if we actually have an incident, what do we do? But firstly, what is consent? It's about saying yes or no, sure, but basically it's described as upholding everybody's autonomy, meaning that everybody have the inherited right to actually decide what is happening with their body, their mind, the spirit, or their physical property in general. It also means when can a consent incident occur, and that is, of course, when somebody has not had the autonomy upheld or basically didn't get to say yes or no to whatever was going on. We can meet it in many, many ways, and there are a lot of different aspects and also gray zones in this, but that is not for us to You can encounter consent in so many ways, and there are a lot of gray zones and areas and nuances to this. So I'll just go through some of what we can expect to meet or what people would approach this with. But just keep in mind, this is not for us to tell whether people actually felt this was a consent breach or not, but I'll get back to that. So first, there are, again, a line of different things, and we know some of the basics are, of course, taking a photo of video, ask before you do so. It's also touch and kinks and so on. The sexual consent is quite obvious to us. But also consent can also be to actually giving people a task or work and give them an opportunity to say yes or no, or just in general have an expectation of, if you are going to play this kind of music, how many will this actually affect? So there's also an aspect of this that actually goes into just a shared room. Then we also have gifting. That's also a big one. And food goes a little bit under that. But I think I'll narrow it down to people sometimes gift us something and it's nice and it's with all the good intentions, but we can't decide the impact of what we want to give people. So there's an element of just accepting a no, and also guide people to actually say, well, it might be a good intention, but actually they can say no, thank you. And also, if you want to give people something, well, ask them what they want to have, or if they want to have anything really. Also tell what's in the gift or what's in the food. Think about allergies and so on. That can also be an encounter we can have. So how do we handle if we have a consent incident? Now, goes through a lot of different stuff, meaning there can be something from person saying, I didn't want to hug, and somebody's not understanding my no. And it can also be a very severe consent breach. And depending on the situation, of course, use common sense. But I have narrowed it down to what I have made into 4 steps. And it is in the safety protocol. So you can go through this step by step. If you are in doubt, go through that. But otherwise, I encourage you to look through this. I'll share it with you. It's called the clown's consent briefing. But first and foremost, be aware of the lingo, the words we use, because we do not want to induce or trigger further trauma or harm. So that's why the words are very important, and especially if we use words as victim or accuser or violator, or whatever. So let's not do that. Let's be mindful of how we talk about this. I'm using the word reporter. In the safety protocol, it's reporting victim, but that's just to say this is a person that felt that they have experienced something, but they are reporting to you about this or telling you, sharing with you. Also means if another person most likely is implied in this, I call it the reported. That's the word I'm going to use now. But if we meet people out there, we say the name. And also if we talk about it between each other, we use names and the words we don't use. But I'll come back to that about discretion. But the 4 steps. There's listening, there's asking, there's discretion, and there's guidance. Keep those 4 in mind. I think that's a nice way to approach it. But the first one I called listening and acknowledging. This is the first meeting and encounter you have with a person, and the most important part is to just make them feel met. Take your time and listen. We have a big phrase of what not to do, and that is basically do not give unsolicited advice. This is a very important one because we have the need to want to fix, but basically remember, this is about them, not you. So meet them and acknowledge their experience. And just basically most people when they are in distress are not capable of taking in other advice or anything else. Also, we are not health professionals, so be mindful of that, but that's also a big thing in itself. But that means most people just want to be listened to. That's the most important part you can do. Do it actively, take your time, make them feel that you are met and also that are in control of the situation. That moves on to the next part. I call it ask or figure out the needs, because you maybe have a whole lot of ideas of what to do, but ask the person. Make them feel like they're in control. They just had an experience where they felt that their control was taken away from them or consent weren't given or respected. So it's very important that we do that. And we can just ask, do you want me to just listen to you or do you want me to guide you? May I guide you to further guidance? So hopefully they either maybe just needed to share with you. It could be the good, I didn't want to hug. I felt like this and this, meet them in that situation, and maybe be like, hey, we should just respect the no, even though a hug was a great thing, find other good people to hug you. People who think a hug is nice. That could be a thing. Let's hope it's there. It's just there. But of course, if it's something further, you have the opportunity to guide them further. Then the 3rd step is discretion, and that's very important. We do not involve more people than necessary. We do not do it without consent from the person reporting to us. And also we make sure, again, when we inform between the intercoms and so on, the walkies, then we do not use specific words. We do not use names or anything. We just call for assistance in a consent incidents. But most likely you will guide them further on. And the most important part is that you make sure that they have a person with them that is what we call a carekeeper. You will see it also in the communication path and protocol. This is not you, don't take this upon you. It is a second friend or a co-burner that just want to be there with them and make sure they're not alone. Then you can guide them on. First one you have is, of course, the helm. This is more if it seems like a severe, like a stalker situation, or you need to have contact with the reported already and so on. Or if you simply are in doubt, let them help you guide further on. But otherwise, we really want to guide people to the sanctuary. This is where we can provide further psychological first aid and also guide into the options if people need either medical attention outside of the burn, or we need to have more support inside of the burn. There can be an option also that people are in a situation where they just need to have some conflict resolution support, meaning they need mediators for a situation, and they don't feel like needing more comfort. They just need a communication and mediation. Then the conflict resolution is also a solution. But otherwise, we really want them to go to the sanctuary. At the sanctuary, it's also the option to call upon what we call the on-call consent team. This is a team that is just there for supporting the safety teams if very severe or in general just needs support for constant incidents, then we have a person that has capacity and tools, which the sanctuary also have, very capable, but still we have a person that's just dedicated to this, and they will call upon that person. And then there's a whole protocol for how we get medical attention and so on. But hopefully you will have let go of people at this point, but never leave them alone and never let go of somebody else supporting from a safety team, sanctuary, a helm, or whatever, before you make sure that they have what we call a second supporter. We should never be alone supporting people. We should also have a supporter, just somebody present. So make sure you're that person until they have somebody else. And also, again, don't leave them alone. I will make this is a briefing you will get. So you'll have the possibility to read through it. If you want more about psychological first aid, I also have a document on that. I know conflict resolution also have stuff for you. Otherwise, ask questions and ask each other for support. This is the most important thing for clown, is to spread the joy and meet people and make them feel met. So just listen and acknowledge whatever feeling and experience they had. That's the best thing. And take your time and ask them. We are not supposed to be health professionals when we are at a burn, even though we are in real life. We can only do our best to support. So I highly encourage that. And I think that's the end of me. So thank you and enjoy. So Naima, will you take it away?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Sabina. It's a lot of information. My name is Naima, and I'm part of the consent crew, which is semi-new for this year.
You are the conflict resolution crew, not the consent, right?
Oh, sorry.
We can't be stealing each other's jobs. It doesn't work that way.
Well, apparently it's gotta. Sorry, but
I'd rather be in your group. My name is Naima, and I'm part of the conflict resolution crew, which is semi-new for this year. And we are in no way meaning to take away responsibility for everyone at a burn to try to take care of their own conflicts, which we all have to do in real life. So we will support by giving all borderlings access to kind of a step-by-step guide if you would happen to come into a conflict yourself, or if you would get asked to help someone else in a conflict. So this little protocol would also be a help for you clowns if you get into asked conflict. But basically, I'd say just by being support, you're doing a major difference. Having a third party in a conflict is the most important thing. Just your presence will change a lot of things. So if someone comes to you or you see a conflict that is going on, just know that your presence will change the most. And what you can do if you are asked to help in a conflict, the most important thing to remember is to not take sides. You're not meant to be a judge of anything. You're not made to decide who's wrong and who's right, or agree or disagree with anyone. So try instead to just be a listening ear. And if anything, just mirror back what you are hearing. So if someone's telling you a story about what's happening in a conflict, just actually try to repeat what they said. Kind of summarize what you just heard, and that will help them to feel like you're using your empathic skills to be there with them, and that's usually the most calming things for people who are in distress because of conflict. So just mirroring back what you're hearing is a great tool. And if you feel like you would need more support, like the conflict is escalating and you can't handle it and you can't resolve it, then this conflict resolution team will be accessible during Borderland to go in as mediators and support. And you can find us through the Discord channel that is called the Conflict Resolution. And there is also, in this guide, there is access to a list of mediators you can contact directly as well. So that's like in regards to conflicts that are not so severe or like violent. If you would encounter like a violent situation, I think you probably have this in your emergency cards as well. But I'd say like it's the same advice. Like just you being present there can make a huge difference. And instead of disagreeing or agreeing or trying to talk someone out of a violent state, just try to be there with them and be empathic. Unless it's a super like violent situation and you need to call the police or call on people to stay safe, then just stay calm. You got this. Like, unless there's any danger of your physical body, just stay within a few meters distance and talk to them. Listen, what's going on? Say like, hey, you seem really, really angry. What's going on? So that you can help them calm themselves. They don't need to, so you're not part of escalating what's happening. So that's some pointers. And if you have any questions, you need support, then the conflict resolution on Discord is a great channel. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Naima. I also like to add, because I know the conflict resolution crew is not that big, and there's a lot of skilled conflict resolutors and mediators at the event. So one early step, if you meet people who are in a conflict and they're looking to you to resolve it, rather have them say like, hey, do you have someone in your camp or in a neighboring camp that you might be able to ask to step in to mediate this process? So instead of elevating to the conflict resolution group, you ask them to go to their community and see if they can find the support they need to resolve it.
Exactly. And that's what's in our guide as well. That's the first steps of like, first, try to resolve it yourself. 2, find a friend. 3, go to your camp. 4, go to reconnect. 5, call the mediators.
Great, great. So that said, I think we're going to go back to Robert.
Yes, hello again. I will take you a little through step by step how you will be preparing for your shift. And everything will start in the clown headquarters where we will meet up. So at the start of Borderland, perhaps you should check it out and so you know where it is. The headquarters will also be a place for the clowns to sit down and have some refreshments and take it easy in the shift from time to time. Important thing, remember to show up for your shift. And if you don't remember what time it was, or etc., you can find a list in the clown police headquarters so you can check the time and date for it. It's important that you show up 50 minutes earlier to have the information from the core clown. And it's good if you're well fed and watering up, so you're just ready to go out. Important, you should also be sober when you get there, and you will need to be sober through the whole shift. After that, the handover from the core clown, you will get perhaps a lot of information, but don't worry, because you will be handing a handbook. And in the handbook, there will be information on all the different situations you may counter on your shift. And you will also have a radio. You will have 1 per pair. You will always go 2 and 2 on your shift. And we'll also provide costumes at the headquarters, but feel free to bring your own if you want, but no scary one, especially not on Fridays. And yeah, and then we will buddy up, like I said. If you have a friend you really want to go with, that's of course really nice and you're more than welcome. But else we will try to match a non-virgin with a virgin to make it a little easier and make some information around. And then is the radio information, how the radio should function and how we will go through how to change batteries and everything around the radios. That's pretty much how you will be preparing for your shift. Thank you.
And I think this is the end of the video. So thank you everyone for helping out to do this. Feel free, if you're watching this, to reach out to Robert, to Anton, to me, to Naima, to Sabina, if you have any further questions. And there's also, of course, the Clown Police channel on the Discord, where there will always be people answering your questions. So I will see you, we will see you at the Borderland.